The dead ship, the moon of Varel 6, was quiet, floating in deep space like a frozen ghost. It was cold, cracked, and lifeless. But buried halfway under its gray surface was something far older and far more mysterious. An alien ship. Massive. Silent. Ancient. No one knew where it came from. It had no markings, no language symbols, and no signs of damage. Just a black hull covered in dust and ice. Sensors said it had been there for at least 10,000 years, and it was completely dead. Or so everyone thought. The Galactic Exploration Council had tried everything. Over the years, teams from different species had come to the moon. Engineers, scientists, translators, even psychics. They had sent probes, drones, lasers, and energy waves. Nothing worked. The ship stayed silent, like it didn't even notice them. A station was built nearby, a floating research platform just above the moon's surface. Inside it, scientists continued to observe the ship every day, hoping it would blink or hum or do anything at all. It never did. Until the day the humans arrived. Captain Rain stood at the observation window, looking down at the massive ship below. His crew had just docked with the station, and already he could feel the tension in the air. Looks like they weren't expecting us, he muttered. Beside him stood Elia, the mission's lead linguist. She was young but known for decoding alien languages faster than anyone. She had spent her whole life studying ancient tech. But this was something else. Has it done anything at all? She asked the station commander. The commander shook his head, looking tired. No engines, no life signs, no energy. It's just there. We've tried every known language. Still nothing. It doesn't react. Elia pressed her hand against the glass. Maybe it's not dead. Maybe it's just waiting. The commander chuckled. That's what the last 5 teams said too. Later that day, the human team was given access to the data room. Giant holographic maps of the ship floated in the air. Its shape was strange-like. A giant bird with folded wings. It had no visible engines, no known access doors, and no windows. Elia walked slowly around the projection. No doors. No signals. And it ignores scans. What if it doesn't want machines? What if it's listening for something simpler? Captain Rain frowned. Like what? Elia replied. A voice. Everyone in the room looked at her. You're saying it wants someone to talk to it? Maybe. Not commands. Not programming. Just words. The commander laughed. You think you can talk a 10,000-year-old ship awake? Elia didn't smile. I'm going to try. The next day, she suited up and entered a small pod. It lowered her slowly to the surface of the moon. The alien ship sat nearby, half buried, huge and dark like a sleeping beast. Its hull was cold, black and smooth like polished stone. Elia walked up to it. There was no door, no panel, no light, just silence. She stood close and took a deep breath. Then she spoke. Hello. Nothing happened. She continued. My name is Elia. I'm human. I don't know who you are, but I've come to listen. If you're still alive in there, I'd like to understand you. Still no response. The station crew watched from above, disappointed. But Elia didn't give up. She sat down in front of the ship, resting on a rock. Her helmet mic stayed on. She told it stories. About Earth, about the stars, about music and oceans and laughter. And then, the ground shook. Just slightly. The crew on the station jumped to their feet. Did something move? Yes, there was a pulse under the surface. A technician shouted. Elia stood quickly. Did you feel that? Before she could say more, a light appeared. Just one. A tiny white glow on the ship's hull, like a single eye blinking awake. Everyone froze. Back on the station, alarms rang. The ship's waking up. Someone shouted, No, only part of it. Another said, just that one spot near the human. Captain Rain turned to the screen. Zoom in, right now. They saw Ilya standing inches away from the glow dot. Then the light blinked again twice. Ilya raised her hand slowly, heart pounding. She whispered, "Can you hear me?" The light pulsed in rhythm with her voice. The alien ship had ignored thousands of voices, machines and commands for centuries. But now, it responded to a human voice. Asterisk, it listens to no one. The glow on the alien ship didn't spread. It didn't grow or fade, not it pulsed slowly, softly only when Ilya spoke. From the station above, the crew watched in stunned silence. Cameras zoomed in. Sensors tried to analyze the light. But they found nothing, no heat, no power source, no energy spikes. Just a tiny glowing point that blinked every time Ilya said something. "It's reacting only to her," a technician whispered. Still no sign of engine activity. The station commander added. Captain Rain stood at the center of the operations deck. His jaw was tight, his eyes fixed on Ilya's figure standing alone next to the massive ancient ship. He tapped the console. "Can we try another voice? Another language?" The science officer shook her head. "Already tried. We've broadcast in 12 galactic languages. Auto-tuned frequencies, sonic pulses, nothing. The only reaction is from her live voice." "Then she stays?" Rain said. The station commander looked uneasy. "You're putting a lot of faith in this human." Rain turned to him. "That ship has slept for 10,000 years. If it's finally waking up, we let it decide who it listens to." On the moon's surface, Ilya stayed still. She had been speaking softly for almost an hour, telling the ship stories, describing Earth's oceans, music, and the feeling of walking through. Winged. She didn't beg or demand. She simply talked as if the ship were a lonely creature. And still, it pulsed in rhythm with her words. Finally, she paused. The glow dimmed for a second, then blinked 3 times in a row. Ilya narrowed her eyes. Was that a reply? She looked around. There was still no movement, no door, no sound, just silence in that one blinking light. She took a step closer. "I don't know who you are, but you've been alone for a long time, haven't you?" The light blinked once then. Once more. Tears welled in her eyes. "You're alive." Inside the station, chaos started building again. Word of the ship's reaction had spread across the system. Now, other species wanted answers. 2 alien vessels arrived near the station, one from the Threx Dominion, and the other from the Silari Union. Both were advanced empires, part of the Galactic Research Council, and both had tried unlocking the ship in the past unsuccessfully. They weren't happy. The Threx ambassador appeared on a holocall with the station commander. His voice was sharp, his eyes glowing yellow with suspicion. "You mean to say the ship is responding only to the humans?" "We believe so," the commander replied. "The ship has shown no response to anything else." The Solari diplomat, tall and thin with glimmering blue skin, folded her arms. "Then we demand the humans step back. This is an ancient artifact. It does not belong to Earth." Captain Rain stepped into frame. "It doesn't belong to anyone. And right now, it's choosing who to listen to, not us." The Threx ambassador hissed. "You think we'll let one Terran girl unlock its secrets while we watch from the outside?" Rain didn't flinch. "She's not forcing it. She's the only one not trying to control it. Maybe that's why it listens." Back on the moon, Ilya stood in silence. Suddenly, the light on the ship shifted. It grew brighter and then moved. A glowing line slid across the surface like a pulse through glass. It formed to shape a circle. Then, a seam appeared, a door. Ancient ship had just opened a way inside. Ilya gasped. "You trust me?" The doorway was dark and deep. filled with swirling mist. No sound came from inside, but her suit sensors reported breathable air, stable temperature, and gravity. She activated her helmet comms. Captain, the ship just opened a door. Rain's voice came through immediately. Don't go in yet. We're sending a drone first. She waited. The drone arrived in minutes. It hovered at the doorway, scanned the space, and floated in. Then its signal vanished. Drone offline, said the tech on the station. No explosion, no energy pulse. It just disappeared. Elia looked at the doorway. It felt like the ship had rejected the drone. She whispered, "You don't want machines, do you?" The doorway pulsed softly like a heartbeat. She turned her comms back on. Captain, it only wants me. Rain was silent for a long time. Then, go in. But be careful, and keep talking to it. She stepped forward. The doorway surrounded her in light, and the surface behind her closed without a sound. From the outside, she was gone. Inside, she floated down a corridor unlike anything she had seen. It was alive. Glowing veins on the walls pulsed with soft light. Symbols drifted in the air like glowing dust. And in the distance, a voice called to her. Not a language, not a sound, but a feeling. Welcome. Her voice reaches it. Elia moved slowly through the alien corridor, her boots softly touching the glowing floor. The light beneath her feet rippled gently, like waves in a shallow pond. The walls curved upward and around, like the inside of a great creature. The air smelled strange like dust and metal, but clean. Her helmet said the atmosphere was safe. She took it off. The moment her face was exposed, the ship reacted. A soft breeze flowed through the hallway. It wasn't cold or warm, it just felt welcoming, as if the ship had been holding its breath for a long time. And now it finally exhaled. Elia whispered, "Can you hear me?" Light along the walls blinked in reply once, then twice, then once again. A pattern. She smiled. "I don't know if that means yes," she said softly, "but I'll take it as a hello." Back on the station, Captain Rain and the entire control room were watching the live feed. Elia's suit was still transmitting visuals and vitals. Her heart rate was steady, calm, focused. "She's inside," the commander whispered. "She made it further than any of us ever could." The Threx and Solari envoys watched from their own ships. Their faces showed a mix of disbelief and frustration. "She's talking to it," the Solari diplomat said. "She's not even trained in command protocols," the Threx ambassador growled. "She's just speaking like it's alive." Captain Rain folded his arms. Maybe that's the only thing it ever wanted. Inside the ship, Elia kept walking. The hallway opened into a large chamber. The ceiling was impossibly high, glowing, with swirling clouds of color like a night sky locked inside a dome. In the center stood a tall column, hovering slightly above the ground. Around it, strange symbols rotated in slow circles, shining like fireflies. As Elia stepped closer, column responded. A voice not through sound, but inside her mind gently entered her thoughts. "You speak with warmth, with memory, with truth." She froze. "Who are you?" she asked out loud. The symbols spun faster. "I was once a guardian. Then I was forgotten." Elia's breath caught. "You've been waiting?" "Yes, for the one who remembers how to speak without wanting power." She placed her hand near the column, but didn't touch it. Instead, she spoke again. "I don't want to control you. I just want to understand." A low hum filled the room. "Then listen." The walls came alive. Images, like moving paintings, flickered around her. She saw stars being born, planets turning red, massive fleets fighting in ancient wars, and among them humans. But not as they were now. These humans were older, stronger, dressed in dark armor and glowing suits, commanding ships like gods. of fire and steel. And at the heart of it all was this ship, a great vessel that watched, listened, and obeyed only one captain. A Terran woman who looked almost like Elia. This was yours? She asked. She was my voice. And now you are. Outside the chamber, the ship pulsed brighter. From orbit, sensors detected massive power building within. Energy levels rising. One technician shouted .ray and leaned forward. Is it arming itself? No, sir. No weapons. It's just powering up. The station lights flickered all over the moon. Equipment powered by solar batteries started to glow even though the sun hadn't risen yet. The ship's energy was feeding the station. The ancient vessel was awakening. Elia looked at the spinning. Column again. Why now? Why me? Because you didn't demand. You didn't yell. You didn't command. You spoke. Like she once did. The room grew quiet again. Elia felt her throat tighten. She remembered the stories her grandmother used to tell. Old myths about Terrans who spoke to machines like friends, who sang to ships and whispered to stars. She never thought they were real. Now, she was standing inside one of those myths. Do you want to leave this place? She asked. The ship replied slowly, gently. Yes, but not to escape, to remind. Remind who? Everyone. Back outside, a soft shockwave rippled through space. Not violent, just a pulse, but every ship in orbit felt it. Power dimmed for a second, then returned stronger. All across the galaxy. Ancient satellites and deep space listening posts picked up the same signal. A three-tone pulse. Sound long forgotten. The signal of a Terran relic waking up. Panic spread fast. Old enemies of Earth took notice. Warnings were sent, but they were already too late. The ship had chosen, and it had answered only her. The trial of the core. The chamber inside the ship was silent again. Elia stood before the floating column, her heartbeat steady, though her mind raced with questions. The images of ancient battles, burning stars, and Terran commanders still floated around her like ghost memories. She didn't know if she was dreaming or walking inside the memory of something alive. Why show me all this? She asked quietly. Voice returned, not through sound, but through her thoughts. Because memory is the key. This ship is not a weapon. It is a witness. She blinked. A witness to what? The column spun faster. The air in the room shimmered. To the promises made and broken, to the peace lost and the voice forgotten. The floor beneath her shifted, not with force, but with intent. Without warning, the walls began to move. The room expanded outward, transforming into a wide circular hall. Light rose. From the floor and pillars, 12 of them, each displaying a glowing figure, barely visible. They stood tall, motionless like judges made of starlight. Elia slowly turned. Is this a test? A trial, the ship said. Not of you. Of your kind. Her stomach turned. In orbit. The station picked up another spike in energy. Something's changing again, a technician reported. It's reshaping itself internally. Captain Rain's face tightened. Is Elia still transmitting? Yes. Sir, heart rate steady. No signs of stress. On board the Threk ship, the ambassador paced angrily. This is ridiculous. One human speaks softly to an artifact, and suddenly it responds like a loyal dog. There must be tech manipulation code. Implants something. The Silari diplomat remained calm. Maybe it's not responding to species. Maybe it's responding to intention. And what intention do humans ever have? The Threk spat. Except conquest? Rain turned toward the camera. She hasn't used a single weapon. And that ship gave her access none of us earned in 1,000 years. Inside the trial chamber, the starlit figures began to glow brighter. They did not speak, but their presence was overwhelming. Elia could feel their gaze, if not through eyes. Then through something deeper, the ship's voice returned. Thousands came before you. All demanded control. All failed. Elia nodded slowly. Because they were trying to own you. Yes. But the one who last spoke like you, ... wore your face. One of the glowing figures shifted. An image formed, an old recording. A human woman, older, hardened, stood before the ship in the same chamber. Her voice echoed, I don't want to rule you. I want to keep the memory alive. Elia's chest tightened. That's her. The one before me? She was the last voice. Then silence came. For 8,142 years. Suddenly, the 12 pillars of light flashed. One by one. They projected symbols, languages, declarations, treaties, records. Each one showed a moment when alien empires lied, broke peace, erased history, or stole Terran knowledge. Each moment recorded and stored. Every betrayal remembered. The ship whispered again. This is not revenge. This is balance. Elia's voice trembled. And what must I do? Decide. The floor beneath her feet lit up with a path. At its end stood a small pedestal with a glowing orb. Inside it swirled a storm of light, like a sun trapped in glass. The core of command, the ship said. If you touch it, I awaken fully. I will listen only to your words, act on your intent, follow your voice. She hesitated. What if? I say the wrong thing? Then I will still obey. But consequences will follow your truth. Elia stared at the orb. Behind her. The images of war, betrayal, and silence continued to flicker. The ship wasn't just testing her. It was trusting her. And that was far more terrifying. Back on the station, red warnings flashed across the screens. Massive core activation detected. Internal systems unlocking something deep. We've never seen this level. Captain Rain clenched his fists. What is she doing in there? No one answered. Because in that moment, Elia reached out. Her fingers touched the orb. And the ship responded. A great sound, not a weapon. Not a scream, but a song rippled through space. A low, ancient tone that vibrated through every ship, every station, every soul. The lights across the hull of the ship came alive slowly, beautifully like. Stars waking from sleep. Panels unfolded. Antennas extended. Symbols glowed in Terran, script across the surface. The ship was no longer silent. It was alive. And it had chosen. Inside, Elia stood still as light flowed through her body, not harming her, but bonding with her. The voice returned, softer than dye. Ever, you are now my voice. Speak, and I shall answer. Walk, and I shall follow. But know this, the galaxy will listen. But it may not like what it hears. Alien fears rise. The moment the ship fully awakened, the galaxy noticed. From far systems to hidden strongholds, satellites lit up with red alerts. Data bursts and encrypted channels buzzed with one urgent message. Terran artifact active. Power signature confirmed. Human-linked response detected. On Velari Prime, the Solari Council called an emergency meeting. On Threxen 4, war generals prepared defense grids. And in the deep void, where ancient powers slept, something stirred quietly. Watching. Above the moon Virel 6, the station orbiting. The now glowing alien ship was in chaos. Alarms flashed, systems surged, and every sensor reading hit limits never seen before. She activated the core, the technician gasped. The entire ship is responding. Lights, power, movement, all of it. It's reorganizing itself, said another. Panels are shifting. Weapons, if they exist, are now live. Captain Rain stood at the center of it all, staring at the holographic feed. The ship no longer looked like a ruin. Its outer shell gleamed like obsidian glass, pulsing with soft blue and white lights. Antennas rose like feathers, and a long, low sound vibrated the moon's thin atmosphere, a hum of awakening. Still, it made no hostile move. Yet the silence only made everyone more afraid. In the command room, the Threx ambassador snarled at the view. This cannot be allowed. A human controls a relic that could shatter fleets. This is a violation of every treaty signed since the collapse. The Solari diplomat kept her tone even, but worry filled her bright eyes. The ship responded to her alone. Perhaps it sees humans differently. Ancient Terrans built things we still don't understand, or planted weapons they would use. Later, the Threx growled, "I say we strike now, before Earth sends more." Captain Rain raised his voice. "Strike and you start a war, you'll lose. That ship disabled one of your drones with a blink. What do you think it'll do to your cruisers?" The room fell quiet. No one wanted war, but no one could ignore the fear building fast. Inside the ship, Elia walked slowly down a new corridor. It hadn't existed before. The ship was changing, adapting, shaping itself for her. The walls were no longer dusty and old. Now they shimmered like silver silk, warm to the touch. Symbols moved with her, floating beside her like fireflies. She no longer felt like a visitor. She felt like she belonged. The ship's voice returned, always calm, always present. The outside world is afraid. They remember the past in fragments, and fear fills the gaps. Elia nodded. Because they don't know the full story, just the war. Then give them something new to remember. She stepped into another chamber-wide, open, circular. In the center was a table. Around it, chairs of different sizes, clearly not designed for one species. This was not a war room. It was a council chamber. A place to speak. To unite. The ship dimmed its lights. Others once sat here, before betrayal, before silence. If they fear power, offer them peace. Elia sat slowly in the central chair. How? Invite them inside. Back on the station, a signal was received. Clear, strong, from inside the ship. Elia's voice. To the Threx, to the Solari, to all listening, this ship is not a weapon. It is a memory. And now it will become a bridge. You're afraid because you remember war. But I offer you something older than fear truth. The Solari diplomat leaned forward. She's inviting us in. The Threx ambassador slammed his hand on the table. A trap. Captain Rain replied calmly. Or a chance. Within the hour, a small delegation was chosen. One Solari, one Threx, one neutral observer from the station. They arrived at the ship in a small shuttle. As they approached, the ship opened a gentle path, no lights flashing, no weapons raised. Just a glowing hallway and a calm voice welcoming them. You may enter. She waits in peace. They stepped in and found Elia seated at the center of a beautiful chamber, calm, confident, and alone. She stood, opened her hands, and said just one thing. This ship remembers everything. And now it chooses to forgive. Will you? Above, in orbit, the watching ships waited for the result. They expected silence. They expected conflict. But what they received was far more terrifying. The ship sent a new signal broadcasted in every major language. It showed the ancient wars, the broken treaties, the betrayal of Earth by those who feared Terran technology. But then, it showed Elia walking in peace, speaking, listening. Leading. And the message ended with a final phrase, earned into space. The past was silence. The future will listen. Asterisk, they tried to take it, the moment the council chamber doors closed. Behind the Solari, Threx, and neutral envoy, silence filled the ship once more. Inside, Elia stood tall, speaking not as a soldier or scientist, but as a listener. "The ship offers a seat to all," she said gently. "Not power, not rule, just memory." The Solari diplomat was the first to sit. Her long fingers touched the edge of the ancient table, and her face showed awe. "This place was made for unity," she whispered, 1,000 cycles ago. The Threx envoy remained standing, jaw clenched. His hand hovered over his weapon standard. "Protocol for his species, but unnecessary here. There is no threat," Elia said softly. He grunted. "Everything about this is a threat." Before Elia could reply, the ship's voice filled the room. "Aggression is not welcome here, but it is always understood." The Threx glared at the ceiling. "You judge my people? I do not judge. I remember." The walls glowed again, and a hologram formed, an ancient Threx fleet firing on a Terran convoy. The ships were sleek and brutal. The image paused, then melted away. The room dimmed. "The choice is yours, but know this. I am not locked. I am not broken. I am simply patient." Above on the moon's orbiting station, Captain Rain watched the live readings of the ship. Its systems were stable, no sign of hostility. But something felt off. "Sir," a technician said, looking worried, "we're picking up a new signal. Unauthorized ship inbound, fast approach." Rain's heart sank. "Who?" A moment later, the image appeared. A Threx stealth cruiser block, angular, and heavily armed, had jumped in from deep space. They didn't come to talk. The technician whispered .RAY and activated comms. "Threx Command, this is Captain Rain. Your stealth cruiser is approaching restricted space. Do not engage." No reply. The cruiser kept coming, heading straight toward the ancient ship inside the vessel. Elia's eyes widened as the ship whispered. To her. Incoming force detected. Aggressive intent confirmed. She looked at the Threx envoy. "You didn't tell your people you were here to speak, did you?" The envoy didn't respond. Outside, the Threx cruiser charged a weapon aimed. Not at the station, but directly at the Terran relic. The Solari envoy's eyes glowed with alarm. "They're going to fire." Elia turned to the glowing ceiling. "Can you stop them?" "I can, but only with your voice." Her heart pounded. She'd never commanded anything in her life, but now she had to stop a war. She stepped forward. Her voice calm but clear. "Shield only. No attack. Let them see you are not afraid." The ship responded instantly. Above the surface, just as the Threx cruiser launched its first plasma burst, a shimmer appeared around the ship, a translucent shield like glass under starlight. The plasma struck the barrier and vanished like smoke hitting a wall. Not a sound. Not a flash. Just silence. The Threx cruiser prepared for a second shot. This time, the ship reacted before Elia could speak. A beam of soft blue light extended from the hull. Not a weapon, but a scan. The cruiser's power systems shut down. Its engines went cold. Its guns melted inside the base, without an explosion, without heat. The Threx ship was disarmed. In complete silence, panic spread through Threx Command. All systems down. "We've lost shields. Weapons gone. Not offline, erased." On the bridge, their captain stared at the ancient ship on the screen. One Terran artifact had taken out their warship. Without raising his voice, inside the ship, the Threx envoy dropped to his knees. "I didn't authorize that attack," he said, trembling. But they feared losing power. They thought if a human controlled this ship, Earth would rise again. Elia stepped toward him. "I don't want your power. I want your trust." The ship echoed her words with one of its own. "This is not conquest. This is course correction." The Solari stood. "Then let us write new rules. Together." That night, across the galaxy, the footage spread. An ancient ship responding to a human voice. An unprovoked attack silently stopped. No death. No fire. No counter-strike. Just precision. Control. Terra. Balance. Some empires started closing their borders. Others began requesting audience. The Galactic Network renamed the ship the Voice Keeper. And Elia? She became the first person in 2000. Years to be called what the galaxy thought would never return, the Terran Speaker. She becomes its voice. For days after the Threx attack was stopped, the galaxy went quiet. Not in peace, but in awe. Across thousands of systems, people whispered about the ship buried in moon rock for 10,000 years, the one that didn't. Fire didn't kill, but still won. It didn't shout. It didn't threaten. It only listened. And when it chose to act, it moved like a god from forgotten stories. Elia sat alone in the ancient council chamber, her hand resting on the glowing table that now pulsed in time with her heartbeat. She wasn't wearing a uniform anymore. Just a simple dark suit, the same color as the ship's hull. She had spoken with leaders from 20 different species in the last 3 days. Some were afraid. Some were ashamed. Few were hopeful. But all of them listened. Not to Earth. To any government. They listened to her. The ship had no need to fly through the stars to make its presence known. It simply stayed where it was, glowing, alive, unshakable. Inside, it reshaped itself to become a place for gathering. Halls formed, chambers shifted, pathways grew wider. The ship wanted others to enter now, on its terms. It wanted the galaxy to return not as rulers, but as guests. Captain Rain arrived on the 3rd day. He hadn't seen Elia since she touched the core. He stepped into the chamber and paused. The room looked nothing like before. It was brighter, more alive, like it had taken a breath and now stood tall. Elia smiled as he approached. "You look different," Rain said. "I feel different," she replied. He looked around, impressed. "They're calling you the Terran Speaker now." "I didn't ask for it. Neither did the last one. But the ship chose her anyway." Elia turned to the glowing table. "It doesn't care about titles or ranks, just honesty." Rain sat beside her. "Then be honest," he said. "What happens now?" She looked up. Her eyes didn't hold fear, only purpose. Across the stars, change had already begun. Old alliances reopened talks. Hostile empires paused their wars. And in the deep shadows, ancient species who once ruled in silence began to stir uneasily. They knew what a Terran voice meant. Not invasion. Not empire, but accountability. Because if the Voice Keeper remembered everything, then it also remembered who broke peace first. Back in the council chamber, more envoys arrived. One by one, different species sent representatives, not with fleets, but with questions. The ship welcomed them with open halls and warm light. It taught them what it remembered. It showed them what was forgotten. Elia became more than a diplomat. She became a story keeper. Each morning, she met with new species. Each night, she whispered to the ship's core, asking it what to show next. It always answered. Not with orders, but with memory. One night, when all was quiet, the ship spoke to her directly alone. "Your voice has changed the path of history. But I ask you, now what path will you take?" She walked slowly to the center of the bridge, the very heart of the vessel. The stars outside shimmered like a sea of light. "I don't want to lead an empire," she said. "I want to keep the door open." The ship pulsed softly. "Then we open it together." Panels slid aside, revealing a new interface. Not for war. Not for command. But for communication. A universal translator reforged using Terran language, memory, and emotional coding. It would allow species to speak not just in logic, but in feeling. Understanding. For the first time in centuries. The galaxy would feel each other's truths. Elia stood before the screen. Her voice was soft, but steady. To all who listen, the voice keeper is not a weapon. It's a mirror. We all came from silence. But now we are heard. No one controls this ship, not Earth, not any government. It listens only to the voice. That brings truth. If you have peace in your heart, you will be heard. The message spread faster than any fleet ever could, not through power dot, but through hope got young species. Rising civilizations and lost cultures all heard the call. For the first time in galactic memory, Earth was not feared, not it was respected, because it had created something not even war could destroy. A voice that could never be silenced. Dot, as Elia stood at the center of the ship, stars turning around her, the ship whispered one final line in her mind. You are not my captain. You are not my queen. You are simply my reason to speak again. The end.